Good morning, brothers and sisters of the Teamsters. Brother Hoffa, Brother Kegel, brothers and sisters of the General Executive. I'm not sure if it's a Teamsters saying, but in Australia we have a saying, after the Lord Mayor's carriage comes the shit cart. I hope I do a bit better than that. I'm honoured to bring you greetings from the International Brotherhood and Sisterhood of 5 million transport workers of the ITF. As Jim said, some from Australia, Great Britain, India, Mexico and South Africa are in the hall today. Our General Secretary David Cockcroft also sends his greetings. We come here committed to forging even stronger alliance and friendship in fighting with you across the globe to stop this war on workers. We come here to organise alongside of you for our working rights. We are here because we are angry, like you, about what is being done to workers, and because we want to do something about it. We are here to get those rights back, our labour freedom, back from the thieves and carpetbaggers, robbing us with one hand, patting themselves on the back with the other. We are here because of the lies and bullshit said about workers and unions and our labour movement. And because we want the truth to resonate across the workplaces, across the communities, across the nations, with a mighty voice that will not be denied. As an Australian, I can say we've exported one of the biggest liars in the world, Rupert Murdoch. He is Fox News. He is the Tea Party. He's one of Australia's worst exports. And that's saying something coming from a country that was colonised as a jail for England and Ireland for all its troublemakers and convicts. Murdoch in Australia says things about our union and unions like yours. We're like the Banditos. We're like the Hells Angels. When we know we're closer to the Salvation Army. Or maybe we're something in between. On the brighter side, one of our best exports was Harry Bridges. A member of my union who helped form the International Longshoremen into the ILW in San Francisco in the 30s, and who was a great friend of Jimmy Hoffa, who he said and admired as one of the whole of his working life. He admired him as one of US Labor's great leaders, a man of courage, loyalty and conviction over the long years of Labor oppression in this country and the witch hunting against that leadership. Both of these great and important leaders knew that the truth of honest labour, that's the truth, honest labour, must be properly acknowledged, must be respected, must be rewarded, regardless of the fight and regardless of the difficulties. That truth, our truth, lies in union recognition. It is given powerful voice in union contract. It is a truth that forms good governments and fights oppression in all forms. It is a truth of peace and not war. It is a truth of good public service and not private greed. A truth of health and not sickness. A truth of education and opportunity, not ignorance and unemployment. A truth for the future and not the past. It is a truth that freed Mansour Osalou, the Iranian bus driver imprisoned, bashed, humiliated over years by his government for nothing else but seeking wage justice for bus drivers. It's a union truth. It's an ITF truth. In this hall, it's a Teamsters truth. Brothers and sisters, we stand at a critical juncture for the global labour movement and for the international transport workers in particular. World trade dominates our national and international economies. It's a mighty engine, like those that drive those magnificent rigs outside this hall. owned by the Teamster locals. It is an engine that links workers throughout the world, workers from the mines of many countries to the manufacturing centres of others. From there to the distribution and retail outlets, everywhere it links workers, their communities, their endeavours, their dreams, their needs. From the farms, coal and iron ore mines of Australia, Brazil, South Africa, to the steel mills and factories of China, India, Japan, on to Walmart, Macy's and the supermarkets, world transport workers do the heavy lifting. Transport workers do the just-in-time. Transport workers move the people, and on the air and on the ground. And it is good to see our Chinese union brothers here today, and sisters, who face similar pressures and demands in the protection of workers' rights in the next largest economy in the world to the US. To understand each other is to help each other. This trade engine is fuelled by supply chains, from road and rail to ports and ships, back to road and rail and over through the cycles of distribution, manufacturing and retail. It shelters in warehouses. It is administered by logistics. It is populated by urban transport and aviation. We must organise every link of that supply chain so that we can reach out not only to each other in companies like UPS, DHL, FedEx and many more, but to other workers in other industries to help them build their power so they in turn can assist us to build ours. We must do this with urgent courage and commitment at a time that this economic juggernaut continues to direct its great wealth towards the few and not the many. Already we have been forced to stand by and see that wealth squandered through the financial crisis by their negligence, greed, criminality, intent by those to monopolise it and us. They use that wealth, our wealth, to destroy us who create it. Squandered by the banks, speculating by a punter at the track, doubling their bet race after race after race, until their rotten nag dropped dead in the last. Watched by governments, owned and enthralled their club membership of elitism, graft and greed, stupidity and mutual back-slapping. Conversely, working men and women like yourselves and throughout the world were rewarded for their hard, grinding and dangerous work with the greatest destruction of wealth ever seen in the history of humanity. Across this country, across the world, we have been forced into poverty, forced into homelessness, into unemployment in numbers never encountered before. In Wisconsin, in Liverpool, in Mumbai, in Sydney, the war against workers continues to be motivated by this same greed and elitism. Continues to this day, this moment. Brothers and sisters, in this great room, in the governing convention of this great union, and in rooms and workplaces across America and the world, let us make this pledge to each other. We will organise to get behind the wheel of this great trade engine and world economy, and this time drive it to our house, our workplace, our pension funds, our mutuals, our banks, our credit unions. We pledge to drive it to better opportunities in our schools and hospitals and into our community support needs. We pledge to drive a better life to our homes and families. We pledge to each other to build something this time for the many and not the few, for the weak as well as the strong, for the freedom of Labor activists like Osalu and not their imprisonment and murder, and for those that have not as well as those that have too much. Jim, brothers and sisters of the Teamsters, that's why I stood as President of the International Transport Federation, to put my hand to the wheel alongside yours, so that we can get out there and fight this war against workers. See, we're down to 7 or 8% in this country in the private sector, close to that in Australia and across Europe. It is our time, our watch, our generation of leadership that will rebuild and revitalise the great values of international labour, of fairness and equity and redistribution, of health and education and opportunity. It is our watch, our time, and future generations of workers will thank us for taking up that mantle. Together, brothers and sisters of the Teamsters, we can make a difference. Together, brothers and sisters of the Teamsters, we are the difference for working men and women the world over. I'd like to make one small presentation to you, Jim, before I go. It's a print. It depicts, in Australia, a picket line. I'm not sure it'll show up, where the biggest stevedoring company in Australia locked out our workforce and replaced it with scabs. Communities from all over the country came down to that picket line. Over a period of 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we struggled against the titanic political, economic and industrial forces arrayed against us. The High Court eventually found that this company, together with the then Australian government, was in conspiracy against the working men and women of my union and reinstated our right to work. Jim? Jim, this is our world, this is our time, this is our life. Jim Hoffa and the Teamsters, thank you very, very much for your support and friendship.
Thank you.